Do you inherit your parents' mental illness? 10th May 2016, BBC Magazine. In the battle to find what causes mental illness, scientists are increasingly looking at genetic factors. For James Longman, whose father killed himself after suffering from schizophrenia, it's a very personal question. I'm often told I look like my dad, that I have his mannerisms and some of his habits. It's something I take pride in, but it's also something that worries me because he had schizophrenia, and when I was 9, he took his own life. After a particularly bad 2-week episode, he set fire to his flat in London and threw himself out of the window. Some of the details of his life and death have only become clear while looking into the story. Multiple suicide attempts, walking around London in just a bathrobe, hearing voices. There are details that contrast so strongly with the man I remember from when he was well, happy, creative, and funny. 20 years earlier, his own father, my grandfather, had shot himself after finding out he had cancer. I also have other family with mental health issues. Now, in my 20s, I sometimes struggle with depression, so I naturally think, is this something that runs in my family? For a lot of people, mental health is a difficult thing to talk about, but those who deal with these issues can often point to family members with similar problems. Do I get depressed because of the trauma of losing my father in such tragic circumstances, or is it written into my DNA? At King's College London, researchers have been looking into the genetics of mental health. Studies into twins and family histories have proved that mental health illness have a genetic contribution. But it's only in the past few years scientists have been able to fully identify the genetic changes that might be causing that increase in risk. Professor Catherine Ruiz, a researcher from the NIHR mostly Biomedical Research Center, explains, it's really hard to identify the genetic for mental health disorders. We learn at school about simple Mendelian relating to the laws of Gregor Mendel diseases like Huntington's or cystic fibrosis, where there is a single gene that contributes to it. Mental health disorders are not about a single gene, but about a collection of genes. We need to start thinking about this as a cumulative loading of genetics. The work at KCL is still in its early stages, but it's been found there are 108 genes with changes in people with schizophrenia. Now, 9 genes have been found across those with depression and 20 in people who have bipolar disorder. There are almost certainly many more still to find, and scientists say many of these genes will be shared across the different conditions. Making sense of genetic legacy is important because it allows me to break away from the feelings of inevitability that depression gives you. Is this meant to happen? Am I meant to get over this? Is this bigger than me? Evidence from the last few years also suggests that many mental disorders share common genetic risk factors. For instance, genetic variation associated with schizophrenia overlaps with both depression and bipolar disorder, says Bliss. My father's schizophrenia has not been passed down to me, as I haven't experienced any of the symptoms I would have had by now. But perhaps So the genetic coding we share has caused me to experience depression. Siblings can have very different outcomes. Twins, Lucy and Johnny, have a bipolar mother. Johnny has also suffered from the condition, while Lucy has not. When I have a bad episode, I'm not able to drag myself out of bed, says Johnny. Or if I do, maybe next level, I'm able to drag myself out of bed, but I can't understand things. I literally can't understand how things fit together. There's cloudiness in my brain, so there are lots of physical aspects of feeling what people are calling mentally unwell. I asked him how he felt when he was diagnosed with his mother's illness.
Yes, I
Like,
think
oh my
when I was
God,
younger, it
so
was
many
a,
different emotions and intellectual
there would be a slight
responses that you go
anxiety of,
through.
will it be me?
I cried with
Even
relief,
though I think
but
at the same
he
time I always
continued,
knew it wouldn't be.
I'm my mother's child, but I feel like my own condition is unique because every mental health condition is unique to that person. If you have a depressed parent, you are twice as likely to experience depression. With bipolar, you are 4 times more at risk. And in schizophrenia, which my dad had, it's 8 times. But these are relative risks. Overall, risk remains very low. And as ever, there's a certain amount of chance involved in picking up genetic traits. Our upbringings in what we experience as children and adults has a huge influence on whether or not we develop mental illness. My father's death has had a huge impact on my life and on my relationship with my mother. She too has depression, brought on perhaps by my father's death. So it was vital that I spoke to her to understand a little more of what she went through and what worries she had about me. The sense of failure she felt in not being able to stop his death was clear. So too were her concerns about me developing a psychotic illness like me, my dad. She describes the day he died. She came into my school to tell me and remembers my 9-year-old face looking up at her from her lap, my legs swinging between hers. I'd cried at night, she told me, calling off for my dad. I remember none of this. But her fears about me inheriting a serious condition like schizophrenia are behind her. We would be very proud of you, she says, very, very proud of you doing all the things he would never be able to achieve. In his heart, he would feel, oh, wow, what a great young man, we made him.